This is Adam King from Aliens Don't Ring Doorbells, and you're listening to Madness to Creation.
Go ahead, say it.
Welcome to the Madness to Creation podcast. This is Maddie. How are you doing? Madness to Creation is where self-care and music merge. Tonight we have a special podcast interview with the beautiful Lady Londyn. Before you start listening in a little bit, I must issue a trigger warning. We cover very sensitive topics such as depression, anxiety, and suicide. At Madness to Creation, we recognize the importance of emotional and mental well-being for our listeners and that the content might have an adverse reaction to the listener. A description will be provided on each platform and on the Madness to Creation website. In the meantime, please check out the music video for All On Me on YouTube and Lady Londyn's Surgery Recovery Fund for her first post-op appointment on Instagram, and she has posted links to her Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App, and follow her on Instagram at _Lady Londyn. Thank you so much for listening, and please like, comment, and subscribe. I will have a timestamp provided each platform link on where the topic of suicide is discussed in case you want to skip that portion of the interview. Without further delay, here's my mental health conversation with Lady Londyn. Take it away, Lady Londyn. Stuff like that. So, I was gonna say, how are you holding up with everything going on as of late with the pandemic and social and civil unrest and all that stuff?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. I love doing these things. I get really, really nervous because social speaking for me is like different than getting on a track and doing like the lady thing. But, thank you for having me. During this time and during this pandemic, I think I've been just doing my best to try to take care of myself. Like, self-care has become like extremely important to me. And then trying to still keep my brain actively creative because I'm always a creative person. So whether I'm doing music or something else that involves creativity, like those two things have kind of kept me sane during this whole entire pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned self-care. What are some things that you do with self-care? Some people meditate, some people work out and stuff like that. What do you do?
So I love listening to music, and it's different than the music that I make because I make hip hop, but I love listening to a bunch of like R&B or neo soul or like just girly music like that. And then I'm a child at heart, so I love cartoons. And so whenever I'm upset or having a bad day, like I'll just throw on some cartoons or like a Tinkerbell movie and just like being a kid all over again. And that just makes me happy. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And do you, so you like Tinkerbell? What other cartoon characters do you like?
I love Steven Universe. I'm really into adult cartoons, so like BoJack Horseman, Rick and Morty, things like that where it's just like really crazy. Big Mouth this season was really nice. They had a trans girl, like, just adult cartoons and things that are like fun and different.
That's awesome. And what kind, who are some of your favorite artists that you like?
My favorite artist, always will forever be, let's start with Nicki.
Nice.
Just because the queen right now. But my roots are like in the female hip hop era. So I grew up on like Missy Elliott, who was like a legend and who like was my first love, and women like TLC and like Aaliyah. But nowadays, like I listen to the women in music, and like I'm loving Ariana Grande, what she's doing, what Doja Cat's doing. And I'm here for like this new era of like women empowerment and how like it seems like the feminine is taking over in a way that I'm here for.
Yeah, I think we're due for women empowerment to completely take over the game.
Yeah.
And so what makes you feel empowered?
What makes me feel empowered? Speaking my mind. I grew up in a household where my opinions and my thoughts weren't allowed to be mine. So it took me a long time to be able to come into my own voice and what I had to say and things that were important to me. And so now, like, I find empowerment and strength in being able to say, like, when something bothers me or when I'm not happy about something or even when things are going good, like just being genuine to my words. And that's what I appreciate about my music, because that's a space that, like, where I'm just completely vulnerable and I'm saying the things that I want to say, whether it makes me mad or make you mad or the listeners happy or sad. Like, me and music have a vulnerable relationship where we just are intimate with one another. And yeah, just speaking my mind is what like empowers me.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that you grew up in a household where your opinion wasn't really heard or validated or anything like that. Did that play an impact on your mental health?
It did, because I remember for so long being in this shell, I would describe it,
Mm-hmm.
and not really a shell that I created for me, but kind of one that was the only way I could survive, you know? So like, you know, growing up, I would be told like I was being this person or behaving like this or doing things like this. And I'm like, no, I'm really this and I'm really this and I'm really this, you know? And for the longest time, like whenever I did speak up about what I knew to be true about me, it caused me to be harmed, you know? So then moving out into my adult life, like I was always scared to speak up for fear that it would either get me hurt or people would leave me, or like, you know, like my thoughts and my own opinions about things would be the things that like cause me pain.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I'm slowly breaking away from now.
Good for you, and that's so encouraging to hear that you're breaking away from it. So, are you taking like certain steps to break away from it, or is it just kind of a one day at a time thing, or?
One day at a time, you know. I started writing music back in 2013, and I was in college and was having issues with the family and starting my transition and being that low in my life, like I needed someone to talk to. And I had always been in love with music, but that was the first time I just sat down with an instrumental and I just spoke. Whatever came to the forefront, I just let it all out, you know? And for me, like, that's been like my number one confidant. Like, that's where I always go to whenever I'm having any type of issues, like me and a beat, and I just let it all out.
Absolutely, that's wonderful that you let it all out. So, does the Trans Trenders label help you with that as well, like in terms of your music and artist development, all that?
Yeah, I before signing, I didn't think none of this was possible. You know, I had been doing this for so long by myself. And that was like making the music and like my outfits and styling and the cover arts and getting it uploaded and things like that. It was all my own. And I didn't think that like representation for trans people in music was possible and on such a huge platform, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But like signing to this label, I have like 4 other sisters who are amazing and like a label full of other individuals who are like incredible, and it's brought me this sense of family that I didn't have before. And I don't know, like when we have our girl chats, we kind of uplift each other and push each other in our writing and in our artistry. And that's something for me where like I always only had me to push myself. Now it's nice knowing that like when I'm hearing someone else write something, I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like, look at us as a collective, like making art and music, and like everyone's inspiring one another. And like, it doesn't have to be a number one, but what it does in this room for all of us is something that's so special and something that's so important that cameras can't really capture, you know?
Absolutely. And I was gonna say, you Transgenders has an ally in Madness of Creation, and we also believe in getting educated in terms of like the civil issues of the day and things like that. And do you feel like your platform has increased, like especially with the Black Lives Matter movement, the civil unrest, and there was also the Black trans movement? Do you feel like your platform has increased awareness for your music and for your brand?
I try to stay as, you know, vocal about things going on as I can, while also maintaining my own space for me to have a separation, because I never intended to be this leader type person, you know, but I think people take inspiration from everybody, and that's something that I'm just grateful for. But I think the people that have come to my page within this last year have just been inspired by the person that's kind of fearless. And I released my first EP last year in May on the 31st. And literally, that was my birthday week. But my EP was releasing that Sunday. And I want to say George Floyd was murdered either that Monday or the following weekend.
I
And
want to
so
say it was May 22nd.
Yeah, it was around the same week,
Mm-hmm.
So it was like really, really hard for me to go from a moment of like talking to people about what to do here and take action, but then still realize that I'm a person too who had something that was good coming from me. My birthday, I should be able to celebrate it. And trans women and trans people don't live to be that long. 35 was the expectancy and now it's 31. But like, and I have this body of work that I worked on. So it balancing the person who is a leader for people in times like that, but then a person who's also just enjoying life for what it is right now was something that was hard. And so I think people come to my page and get involved with the person that's fearless and vulnerable in that way. Because everything that I do is not always so political, but when I have something to say, I will say it. I don't try to get like too involved with politics just because like it's triggering for me,
Sure. Oh, I get it.
Especially arguments and things like that, because I just like people to get along, like, and those things just bring so much like strife in conversation. So wherever I can give like an uplifting word, I do. Wherever I can speak out about something that like is an issue for me, I do. And whenever I can provide someone something else like joy, I try to make sure people come to my page and find something to smile at.
Yeah, so like, how was it difficult for you to balance that, like balance like everything going on and all that? Because I'm speaking as a small town white person, and obviously there is like there's a part where I myself need to get educated on and be open-minded about. Did you receive like any backlash from anything like that, or was it difficult for you to make those posts, like whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, or anything like that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you get what I'm asking, but
yeah, it was more a personal thing for me. I think it was hard for people to engage with the content. I had a lot of people that loved the album and supported me, but at that moment, everyone's focus was on something that was so traumatic. And even for me, it was hard to like jump into this character of let's deliver joy, let's be happy when like behind the scenes I'm crying. So make a post and tell people the album's out so that way I can make money and eat. But like when I log off of Instagram, I'm sitting here and I'm sad and I'm crying. And like I really didn't want to make the post because I wanted to be able to just grieve and like be done with all of this. But like as a trans person, I don't have the privilege to ever stop moving. So even that trauma, even in that pain, like I had to kind of digest it for the small second that I could, but then keep moving forward because my survival depended on it. Like eating that night depended on it. You know what I mean? So like balancing those two worlds is what I was saying earlier. Sometimes it's hard for me because there's this world that I live in that's my own personal space of joy and comfort and who I want to be and what I want to do. But then when I look at the outside world and see where I actually am in the midst of that, it becomes something that can affect the way that I see myself and the way that I see my own dreams and my own potential. So I try to just make sure that there's a good separation of who I am as a person versus what the world is doing as a whole. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It makes total sense. And how would you describe yourself as a person right now? Like it's 2021, and where have you seen growth from? Like from the George Floyd incident that we talked about to now. What did you learn about yourself and through this pandemic and everything like that?
This is it feels like a loaded question, and it's not a loaded question, but I'm going to answer it honestly because that's my vulnerability and showing up for myself. Last year was such a hard year, and looking back at it, I achieved so much in a year of so much turmoil. Like I dropped an EP and signed to an album, and I flew to New York and recorded a video, and all these amazing things. And still in December of last year, I tried to commit suicide and was on a 5150 for the first time in my life. You know what I mean? And that was a hard experience for me because here I am in the midst of so much that should be good for me, but for some reason I couldn't be happy. And even now that it's 2021, I'm still kind of in that same place. I'm happy and I'm coming back to me, but it was such a big thing for me because I kind of was lost. And even now coming back, I'm like, there's no way that I can hop back on social media and just pretend to be a bad bitch when I know what bad just tried to do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to go and fake it for anybody, because right now what's important for me is trying to figure out, how do I show back up, and how do I not show back up for people but for myself? And that's what I've been battling, trying to feel powerful again, trying to feel like I have something to inspire, because like I just had lost it for a moment. And like I said, even though there's so much good around, I'm just, yeah, life has been really tough. You know what I mean? And we all have those days, but I'm still pushing forward and I'm still doing the things that I love and I'm still trying. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's important. Like, just still trying no matter what. Because I posted some things last month and I have some gigs coming up this month. And like I said, even though I don't feel like that girl who can just show up and be like, here I am, what's up? I'm still gonna have to like push forward and do it, not only for anybody else, but for myself, you know, because it's important.
Yeah, I mean, this has kind of evolved into a pretty heavy conversation, and it's so important to open up and everything like that. And like, I'm so thankful that you have your sisters and a label to help you and to just to guide you through. And so, like, basically, you have gigs coming up, and are you gonna kind of talk about these things like during the show, or is it just what can fans expect from a Lady of London concert?
Well,
besides a beautiful woman, you know.
It's February, and so it's Valentine's month, and so for the two things that I did get booked for, they're kind of strip shows.
Okay.
So that's what the lady do too. But I got booked as a performer, so you won't be getting much commentary about, like, you know, fight the power, but you might see a body feel like, all right, this is going against the grain, because she goes against the grain. But that's what I have coming out this month. I have two performances that are more dance and more like trans body empowering. And then on the 24th of this month, I have a panel conversation that I'm still getting the information on. Mm-hmm. But that's going to be a panel with a bunch of other beautiful trans people. And we're going to be discussing and talking about some wonderful, important things.
Absolutely. And like during your dance shows, like what kind of music inspires you to dance and all that?
So I've become a different person, like under the lights and like in that setting of the club and things like that. But I like all kinds of music. So if something is playing that's like sultry and sexy, like you can think like Needed Me by Rihanna, or like a Partition by Beyonce. Like, it's those moments, and I'm very free with my body. So I love myself, and like I'm that person that really like puts on that show. But then like I can be listening to like a Party in the USA by Miley Cyrus, or like a Super Bass with Nicki Minaj, and I'm totally like ready for the rave and like pumped up and things like that, you know? I'm very free in the way that I move and the way that I feel comfortable in my own skin. And I think that translates to the way that people see my art. They not only see and hear the vocals and like the narrative, but they also see someone who is confident in from head to toe in the body that she exists in, you know?
Mm-hmm. Do you envision like your performances to have like backup dancers in the future?
I would love it. I mean, I used to dance in high school, and I still dance now, and I haven't had the opportunity to do no like choreographed dances or like be on stage in a long time. But I want backup dancers. I want the lights. I need the smoke. I need the whole entire rendezvous set. Like, let's just do
it. So, what are like couple your favorite outfits that you wear while you dance?
I really dance in like a leotard type things for me, just because I used to cheerlead and I used to be in drill team, so like I'm flexible and like I love to do a kick or something with my legs, so things like that. And I just got comfortable in like more tight form fitting like spandex, like the outfit that I have on in Splash, where it's like the bandeau top with the gloves that match. I totally think that that's going to be my signature look from now on. Just like a match set with the gloves. It's like a lady look.
For sure. Do you see yourself like doing some fashion designing, like for trans women or anything like that, or like for ladies in general? Or
my middle name is Fashion. I am the word fashion. Created once I was born.
So like
I love clothes and things like that. So I would love to be able to design for trans women or women in general, and just be able to like give aesthetics and things like that to the culture and the community. Because I've always had a great eye for fashion, and not just for me, but like just styling and like individuality, what makes a person just stick out.
Yeah.
Those things.
Well, I know I need to work on mine. I'm usually a hoodie person, but I know I need to work on mine, but it makes me comfortable, so.
That way, all the way when I was growing up in elementary school stuff, I would wear hoodies and everything. It would be 100 degrees outside, and I would still be hooded up because I was so uncomfortable. But like once you let loose and you let the skin show, you can't go back. You can't go back.
I don't think I want to let my skin show right now. I want to get some lifting back and stuff like that. But yeah, let's talk about your music. And you're probably like, oh, about time we're going to talk about the music and stuff. So you really, yeah, I love the video All on Me. It's honestly, I love the song, and I love the music, and I just love the total vibe that you have behind it. Like, it represents freedom, empowerment. It represents the liberation. That was the word I was looking for. And take us into that song, and what was the most fun part of the music video, and what was the most challenging part of the music video?
The most fun part of that was being able to do that with my sisters. Mm-hmm. Be there and perform together and put on that show. The hardest part of that was that my video was literally filmed right after we left the streets of New York filming Splash. So it's like, we just filmed Splash, we go on the subway, get back to the Airbnb, I gotta change and set everything up, and it's like, okay, now let's film Lady's video. And I was like, everyone was tired, I was tired, but the performances came out nice, and I think it looks good. For me, the song was something like I wanted to exist in that space of liberation. And when you watch the video, and I think when you listen to the lyrics, it's about a trans woman being confident in who she knows herself to be and not needing anyone else's approval. It's, I know that I'm bad, and that's why everybody's on me. I know that I'm tasty, and that's why everybody's on me. You know what I mean? And when you watch the video, it was so like liberating for me to have the moment, the visual of us together as girls, just in regular pajamas for ourselves like you would normally be. But then also have that moment where we switch it up and we elevate it and we're in that lingerie, but still for ourselves, not for the gaze of men, not because a man's in the room, not because anyone but because we feel sexy with each other, because we feel pretty, because we feel beautiful, because we feel powerful. And that was something that I wanted to be seen, that like, you're allowed to explore your own sensuality, your sexuality by yourself, and have that for you, not just seen through the gaze and necessary for men and that attention. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that people were able to see that and like feel that from that. It makes me so happy.
That's awesome. And was it a big contrast you feel from the Splash single and music video?
Yes. And this was a big contrast for me too, as far as like musically to deliver, because it was such a different space for my vocal that I wasn't used to. But I enjoyed the challenge of writing a different type of flow and a different type of style. And like the like from Splash into this, there's like a difference in the personality and the people that you see. And I carry that kind of in my own day-to-day life, like these differences in my personality, like in the way that I show up. But like the person who was in Splash is definitely not the same girl that you see kind of existing on that bed in that way, in that all red. Like, it's two different people, but they kind of exist in the same body. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So take yourself between the vibe in Splash and the vibe in All on Me. How do you feel right now?
I feel great. I feel good. I've been writing some new music that I think is incredible. I've been making a lot of great moves, which I think are incredible. And it's one of those things where like, I'm glad that like, I'm never a person that looks back at the past and regrets or like wants anything to change, because I like things had to happen exactly the way that they happened, spot on that way. Otherwise, you wouldn't be this right now, right here. So in my most darkest times, I'm grateful for everything, and especially what happened these past couple months with me. Like being now, I'm in a place of so much abundance coming through and so many blessings coming through, and it's crazy because I'm sitting here and I'm like, it feels weird because there's so much good stuff coming here, and I haven't done nothing this year. Like I haven't done nothing. I barely was even on Instagram because I was scared to get back on social media, but like still so much is coming to me. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so honored that so many people, even when I'm not showing up every day and giving people the face to tap the like button for, people still think about me. They still want to see me grow and support me. And that just showed me, like, through everything that I've gone through, like, that I'm making a real change and that people really see Londyn, and that means the world to me.
That absolutely has to give you a shot in the arm, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you want? Let's say it's 50 years down the road. You're done making music, doing freestyles, all that stuff. What do you want your legacy to be?
I want the legacy to be freedom. I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's freedom. I envision this world where we find this place where there is no limit, and there are no longer any more titles, and there's no longer any more boundaries and any more separation, because I think in existing in that way, we can do the most benefit for each other. And right now we live in a world where everyone's trying to tell each other what to be and who to be. Right. But once we understand that it's more so about you being you and then showing up in the world that way, that makes the world work, we won't be okay. You know what I mean? And so my legacy, I hope that like in my art and in my story and in the people that I connect with and that I meet and the people that I touch and inspire, that it gives this sense of freedom to the human experience. One that allows people to be people through the good, through the bad, through the confused, through the knowing, through all aspects of life, and just fully show up and experience what that means. You know what I mean? I think if I change the world that type of way before I'm done with music, I'll be happy.
For sure. And also, I was going to tell you, we're planning on working on a book called Lighthouses in the Darkest Distances. Profits are going to go towards National Suicide Prevention Foundation. And it's just something that's just been on my heart, where I'm asking musicians, like just these 3 questions. If you want to answer them, be part of the book. And okay. First of all, what is the soundtrack to your life? Whether it's I know you kind of answered it earlier, but whether it's a genre, whether it's a band, whether it's a recording artist, whether it's an album, what is one song or album that you go to when times are tough?
One song okay. My most favorite song in the world is Flaws and All by Beyonce. And for some reason, that song seems to ground me. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where you look at your own imperfections, and even though you see all those imperfections, there's someone in the world that still loves you and none of that matters. You know what I mean? And for that reason, I love you as well, for loving me through the flaws. You know what I mean? So that's my soundtrack of just being able to walk around and like, I know that I'm a flawed person, and I know that I'm staring at all these flaws, but someone out there loves me, and that's enough for me to love myself and then love you for loving me through all this imperfection.
Mm-hmm. And what message do you have for somebody that is going to pick up the book that just needs those words of encouragement?
The message that I have for someone picking up the book, life is short, and you need to wake up today being the best you, because tomorrow you don't want to wake up being somebody else. There's only one you, and that person deserves to exist.
Absolutely. And I can tell you're very genuine about that. And so I really appreciate you answering those 2 questions. And
I want to be somebody else who's going to be me. You know what I mean? Who's going to be me?
Yeah. I don't know if the world can handle another you.
I don't think the world can handle me not being me. So therefore, even if I wanted to be somebody else, I'm still integral to the code. I got to do it this way.
Yeah. Are you gonna perform in Iowa or Minnesota this year?
I perform in my bathtub if someone lets me.
Giant bubbles? No, I'm just kidding.
I want to perform wherever someone will put the lady on stage.
Awesome. Yeah, I was gonna say I would love to come out and see a show if you ever come to the Midwest. So buy a ticket and come support you. So
I'm coming tomorrow.
awesome. That'd be so cool. So, yeah, this has been so much fun, and honestly, this has been one of my favorite interviews. And, yeah, what else would you like to add? I know we covered a ton of ground. Anything else you would like to add?
I just want people to and I'm probably saying the same thing over and over again in circles, but it's really important for me to just make sure that people know that it's okay to be human. I know people probably look at my page and look at my artistry and see something that's full of greatness and all this put together perfect picture. While that may be the case, there's still a human being underneath there, and that person still gets insecure, and that person still has off days and down days. But you can go through the pain and the trauma and still show up as something with power and still show up with that fire. It's okay to let yourself exist in the space of needing to give yourself that self-care and be a human being that experiences sadness and depression, because that same human being experiences joy and happiness. So just allow all of that to exist in your one human body. And I think that will bring you on the direction to your purpose and greater existence.
100%. I couldn't have ended the show better myself. So you literally took the words right out of my mouth. Lady Londyn, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us for Madness to Creation. Whatever you need, we got you. So
thank you for having me. Always and always.